Welcome to a great show. We have important updates. There's a lot of breaking news. We're going to get right to it. Donald Trump has ordered the California National Guard in on California citizens. This is against the direction of the California governor, the California government, and the California people. In addition, the California governor has said California should not pay federal income taxes, which is kind of a big, bold step. And Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has asked for California protest. Secretary of Defense Hegseth is the one who said he would not answer the question on if he would gun down protesters if given the order. So let's get right to it. Very, very serious news coming out. We'll start with this. So recently, Donald Trump has deployed the California National Guard to Los Angeles to quell protests, despite Governor Newsom objecting. Trump federalized the National Guard, which places him, not the governor, atop the chain of command. Just to point that out for everybody, this has been a long-running Calexit talking point, that the National Guard can be taken away at any moment. George W. Bush ordered the California National Guard to go fight the war in Iraq, even though Californians didn't want that. In return, we didn't have enough people to keep our force from being burnt down. Well, here we are again, the National Guard being used against the will of the California people. And so that they can do that. Let's take another look at, I believe this. Here we go with Governor Newsom. Only a few days previously threatened to withhold federal tax money from California, from the federal government. So Gavin Newsom on Friday suggested California withhold tens of billions of dollars in annual federal income taxes. He said that on CNN. The governor pointed out how California is a donor state and pays more into the system than it ever gets back. Long-term Calexit talking point. In response, the federal government said they need to cut money to California because of its, quote, lunatic, anti-energy, soft-on-crime, pro-child mutilation, and pro-sanctuary city policies. This comes after Trump has already wielded federal funding as leverage to push his politics on California. The president last month threatened to choke off the state's cash flow if a transgender athlete participated in a state girls track meet. So I just want to point out what's happening. So you have, there were protests recently against ICE in Los Angeles. It got out of hand. Then Donald Trump says, well, I'm going to nationalize the National Guard and send it in on Californians over the will of the people of California. You really haven't seen anything like that since Little Rock, 1950s, 1960s. Then Defense Secretary Hegseth says that he is interested in sending the Marines in. He says this right away when this debate gets going. He's going to send the Marines in as part of the effort to quell the protests. Hegseth is the person who said that he won't answer the question on if he would gun down protesters. So when he was being confirmed in the Senate, he was asked, if given the order to shoot protesters, would you follow that order? And he wouldn't answer the question. Now Hegseth, on this issue, has very quickly said, well, I will send the Marines into California to quell this protest. Same guy who said, I won't answer the question if I'm going to gun down protesters. That comes again right after the governor is saying, let's cut off federal funding to the federal government. That's the kind of talk you haven't seen since 1860. So a lot of big things are happening very fast here. President Trump threatens to deny federal assistance over immigration policies, deny federal funds over the transgender policies, and deny federal funds to the entire university system when California is a donor state. That means California is being punished for our culture while we support 35 states that back Trump's policy to be so mean and aggressive to California. The governor and the news are now admitting a Calexit talking point that California is a donor state. and that we're being punished for our policies that we like for our culture. So even though we support America, we're going to have money cut to us because America doesn't like the way that we do things. Additionally, you've seen recently where the president now controls the National Guard over the will of the California government and the California people, and he can direct the California Guard against Californians when they're protesting. Additionally, we've seen the Secretary of Defense suggest sending in the Marines after making a suggestion that he may not be willing to not give the order to gun down protesters. And finally, we've seen that California is a donor state. It can have funds cut off regardless, and that the federal system can't protect you. This is not an America you recognize. Americans don't see you as fellow Americans. When we're looking at the fact that there are protests in California, nationalize the Guard, and there's no response from Republicans across America saying, wow, that's extreme. And then the Secretary of Defense for America says, well, we might send in Marines, and there's no response that that's too extreme. It says something. The fact is that a few months ago, there was a poll that came out, and it said that half of Republicans view Californians to not really be American. Huge poll came out in LA Times. Half of Republicans don't view Californians as really American. So when we look at actions like sending in the National Guard on us and threatening to send in the Marines and cutting funding to us large scale, it's not surprising. This comes on top of a pattern. You can go back to the Palisades fire. People were dead. They were homeless. And Trump said, well, I'm not sure I'm going to give you disaster assistance unless you change your forest policy or your water policy or your immigration policy or your voter ID policy. There it is, documented. So we're living in a time where California is the donor state, and the federal government can say, I don't like the way you handle social issues, so I'm going to take your money away from you, even though you subsidize America. And even when you have disaster assistance and people are dead, I'll still consider doing it. And if you protest, I'll send in the National Guard over your will. And if you don't like that, I might send in Marines. That's never happened before. Oh, and the Secretary of Defense who's doing that says he's willing to shoot protesters. So it's pretty serious. This is all adding up. By the way, the last time governors were talking about how they don't want to pay federal income taxes was 1860. It's secession talk. Really aren't supposed to suggest not paying federal taxes or doing your part for the federal system. And we have our governors and government doing it. So this literally just happened over the last couple of days. Trump did something, California did something, Trump did something, California did something, and then it exploded to this level. We'll work to keep you updated, but basically we've been telling you this for 10 years. We told you California's the donor state. We told you America doesn't view you as fellow Americans. We told you there will be financial punishment for our culture. It's not just an interesting difference. We told you they're holding us back, and we told you that this could get very dangerous. Well, everything's on display in the last 2 days. We've been talking about this for 10 years, and people said that we were radical. You're right. Look at what's going on now. That's radical. So radical solutions to radical times is highly appropriate, people. Something to think about. We'll talk to you soon.